Hello everybody, let's go ahead and sell some goods in Merchant's Cove. But first, only a small amount of people that watch my videos are subscribers, so if you like what you see, consider subscribing. It only takes a second and you can always unsubscribe later. In Merchant's Cove, you are a shopkeeper creating or finding different types of goods to sell to customers that are arriving at the docks. On your turn, you'll be taking actions which cost time. The time is tracked on this clock on the main board. As you pass certain symbols on the clock, you will then be able to draw new customers that you will add to the boats. Once a boat is completely full, you will then get to choose one of the two docks it can be placed at on the main board. Once 4 ships have docked at the piers, or everyone has spent enough time to completely go around this clock, it triggers the market phase. In the market phase, hopefully you have available the best goods in order to sell to the customers that have arrived. There are both small goods and large goods, and then the goods are broken up into 4 different colors: green, blue, yellow, and red. So hopefully when the market phase comes, you have the best combination of goods available to meet the demand of the customers that are at the docks. So for example, in this specific scenario, there are 3 blue meeples at the small goods docks. This player has created 2 small blue goods. The value of these goods is 4 each, so you have 8. There are 3 customers at the docks. 8 times 3 is 24. Meaning that you just made $24 based off of the goods that you have. And that's essentially how you play Merchant's Cove. Except it's not, because I talked about how you interact with the main board, but I didn't talk about the individual boards themselves. Because you see, just in the base game there are 4 different characters available to play. You have the Chronomancer, the Blacksmith, the Captain, and the Alchemist. And then if you get the expansions, there are more characters like the Dragon Rancher, the Innkeeper, and the Oracle. And then there's a secret 8th character that I don't have the rulebook printed out here, but it is the Thief. So what's so interesting about all these variety of characters? Well, they each play completely different. The Chronomancer, for example, is essentially playing a rondel game, moving your 2 characters in a clockwise formation around your board. But also you're able to manipulate the board by physically changing the actions available. The Blacksmith shown here is essentially playing a dice allocation and manipulation game. Then you have the Alchemist that is playing a marble game that is kind of like a simplistic potion explosion. The Captain is playing a spin and move game where you're trying to move your 3 ships around the board to collect different items. And again, that is only 4 of the base game characters. Each character plays a completely unique game. And that's what I really enjoy about Merchant's Cove. Whenever you decide to sit down and play, you can be playing a new game each time, at least for the first 8 plays. And that does lead to the 2 negatives that I want to talk about. As I kind of already showed you, each character has their own unique rulebook, meaning that in order to teach this game, what you're going to be doing is you're going to sit down and teach everyone how to play the main board, and then you're going to pass out each player's individual rulebook for them to then sit there and read in silence. Obviously, you could go around and teach every player how to play their game, but it's kind of a little bit easier just to give them the rulebook and say, now let's take a few minutes and learn how to play this. That makes teaching it a little difficult and a little long, especially for new players. And that leads me to the second potential negative that I actually see as a positive. Because each player plays completely different, the designers decided to make each individual game pretty simplistic. To the point that after you're done reading the rules, you're like, I must be missing something. There has to be more going on. And then you sit there and play the game and you're like, no, that's it. There's nothing I'm missing. It really is just that simplistic. And that's why it's kind of a positive and a negative for me. I personally would like a deeper, more crunchier game each time I get a character to the table. But also making them so simplistic means that getting them to the table is relatively easy. I've seen a few people try to compare this to Root, another highly asymmetric game. But honestly, there's no comparison to be made here. In Root, it is imperative that you understand how each other player plays their game. Because in order to stop another player from winning, you must know how they get points. But in Merchant's Cove, Everyone is essentially playing their own solo game, with very little manipulation of the main board. Besides the customers in the ships and going to the docks, you never interact with any other player. So in Loot, it's imperative you know how other people play the game, whereas in Merchant's Cove, it doesn't matter at all. You just sit there and play your game, do your thing, make your goods, and then sell them when it's time. I've heard other people talk about Merchant's Cove, how essentially it's a love letter to different mechanisms, and I completely agree. The fact that you can sit down and enjoy these different kinds of mechanisms each and every time you play is just enjoyable. So how does it make me feel? I could say simplistic because it really is a very simple game. I could even go with unique because each different character is unique, and that's really neat. But I think what it makes me feel the most is content. And maybe that's kind of a negative, the fact that this game doesn't bring overwhelming enjoyment or excitement, but I don't think every game needs to do that. This game, when I sit down and play it and think about it and think about all the different ways I can play it and all the different characters I can be and how I can manipulate the market and how I can manipulate my own board and how I can interact with the time clock. It's just a game that makes me feel content. I'm content with my purchase. I'm content with the game. It's going to be in my collection for probably a long time as I continue to explore different avenues. And that's why for me, it's almost a perfect game. Not like a 10 out of 10 or anything, but just a solid game that I'm going to hold on to for a long time. So yeah, I know that's kind of a weird feeling of content, but I think that's the best way to describe it. Anyways, I'm Ian, and that's how I feel about Merchant's Cove. Have you played it? What did you think? And what's another game that makes you feel content? Leave your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Now go experience many bored feelings. I want to thank you all so much for watching my video. I know there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other board game content creators out there, and you took your time to watch this one, so thank you so much. If you like what you see, consider subscribing. You can do that right here. And if you want to see more of my videos, you can click right up here to see more. And down here is just a video that YouTube thinks you may like. So once again, thanks for watching.